voice in the global conversation begins with a well single written paper. A warm welcome to everyone present here today. It gives me pleasure to host this impactful and meaningful lecture titled Road to Scopus Index Publications. In today's academic world, publishing in reputed and indexed journals like Scopus is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. It reflects the quality of research, enhances academic credibility, and increases the chances of collaboration, funding, and global recognition. More importantly, it is a key criterion for academic advancement and institutional ranking. We are gathered here today to understand the right path to achieve this important milestone, and I assure you that the insights shared today will be of immense value to our researchers at all levels. To introduce our guest speaker, I would like to invite Ms. Tarini on the stage. Please take over and kindly help us know more about our distinguished speaker for today.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon to one and all present here. It is my honor and privilege to introduce today's distinguished speaker for the lecture series titled Road to Scopus Indexed Publications. Dr. S. Ramagokula Krishnan, Assistant Professor in the School of Social Work at St. Joseph's University, Bengaluru. Dr. Gokula Krishnan is an accomplished academic and researcher who holds a PhD in social work from Bharatidasan University, Tiruchirappalli. He also holds a master's degree in social work and a bachelor's degree from St. Joseph's College, Bengaluru. His academic journey reflects a consistent commitment to excellence in both teaching and research. His areas of expertise include community development, mental health, youth well-being, and quantitative data analysis. Dr. Krishnan has contributed significantly to academic literature with several research articles published in prestigious Scopus and Web of Science index journals. His recent works address vital themes such as the mental health of transgender individuals, the socio-cultural context of child sexual abuse, and the psychosocial recovery of survivors of intimate partner violence. A noteworthy achievement in his academic portfolio is the development of Casework Effectiveness Scale CES-10, a statistically validated tool recently published in a high-ranking Q1 peer-reviewed journal by SAGE. Dr. Krishnan has also served as investigator for a national level research project funded by the National Commission for Women, focusing on mental health and quality of life among women survivors of intimate partner violence. He is a recipient of several prestigious accolades, including the UGC Junior Research Fellowship, Best Paper Award at the Indian Society of Professional Social Work, and the Puraskara recognition by St. Joseph's College, Bengaluru. In addition to his scholarly works, Dr. Krishnan actively mentors PhD scholars and is known for his dedication to promoting socially responsive and methodologically sound research. With his extensive experience in navigating academic publishing and his deep understanding of research design and indexing processes, Dr. Gokula Krishnan is uniquely positioned to guide us on the pathway to Scopus indexed publications. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarini, for that thoughtful and detailed introduction. Now, as a token of appreciation and respect, we would like to felicitate our guest speaker. May I request Professor Ryan to kindly do the honors? Now, without further delay, I warmly invite our speaker to begin the much awaited session on the road to Scopus Index publication. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible. Uh, just wanted to tell you that this session is being recorded so that more people who are not able to come today are also able to listen to what's happening, right? So today's session is going to be about a lot of myth busting about Scopus Index publications, because a lot of people have this idea that Scopus Index publications can be done through payment and so on. I want to break that myth, and I want to really tell you how the entire peer review process works. So this, I think, is something that even I didn't learn as a PhD scholar, and I was very, I was very shocked to learn the truth behind all of this later. And so in this session, I want to bust a lot of myths, and I also want to tell you how the peer review process works. So let's go ahead with this session. We are basically going to look at these following topics. I'm going to try and cover these topics within 1 hour as much as I can, because that's the time I've been given. But if it slightly extends the time, please forgive me, because I believe this is a very important topic that I want to cover. First of all, why research and publication? Why is research and publication very important? then choosing the right journal, the process of submitting an article, the review process, which is called the peer review process, the responding to reviewers' comments, about copyrights and sharing your work, because there's a lot of myth about how you can share and how you cannot share your articles. I'll be talking about that. Myths about Scopus and Web of Science Index publications. Although this talk is about Scopus Index, it's also relevant to Web of Science in some ways. Being a time thief, how do you make time for publication as a faculty, as a researcher, right? It's very, very important. And demotivating moments and possible solutions, right? And question and answer session, right? If you look at me, who I am a young early career researcher, as they call, right? So in the last 3 years, I've had 9 Scopus and Web of Science Index publications. Last year, I had 4 Scopus Index publications, highest in the social sciences. And how did I come from nowhere to this point is what I'm going to show today, what I'm going to talk about today. And I think everybody here has the ability to do that, just that you need to know the process and work hard. Disclaimer, there's no shortcut. It's hard work. But then you need to know the process. That's what I'm here to talk to you about, right? So we'll go to the next slide. Why research and publication? Well, if you want to update your existing knowledge of the subject, you need to do research and publication. You are all, some of you are faculty and some of you are PhD scholars who will eventually become faculty. Now, you are going to be a teacher, or you are already a teacher in a university or a college. You are teaching a subject. How do you know that what you are teaching is still relevant? Some of us may be teaching something from 1980s, which may not be relevant anymore. You have to be updated, guys. Otherwise, a subject is dead. Without research, subject is dead. So therefore, you need to update your knowledge, and to do that, you need to do research. The second reason is to contribute to the growth of the subject. The subject has given a lot to all of us. I think everyone who's sitting here is passionate about their subject, whether it is science or social science or whatever, mathematics. You love your subject and you want to give back to it, right? You have a kind of an interest towards the subject. You want to say, you want to help the subject grow. And if you want to help the subject grow, one way to do that is through research and publications, because that helps the subject stay alive. Third point, to use it as teaching aid in class. Some of you may actually be using the scale. For example, I have developed a scale on case of effectiveness. I have developed another scale. I have developed a lot of other tools that is useful for me when I'm teaching in the class. So as a faculty, you will also develop some tools, or you might come up with new findings that you can use in your research and in your everyday teaching, right? So for that purpose, research and publication is very important. Number 4, to boost your own identity at the international level. See, everyone teaches, and teaching is very important, and teaching is valuable. But then at the international level, there is no uniform metric to compare how good a teacher is versus another, right? Everyone has their own technique, but the way in which people are actually rank ordered is by publications, because that shows scholarly work, that shows innovative thinking, that shows that they are at the cutting edge of the science that they're teaching. Therefore, it's very important that you publish so that you have an international recognition. Number 5, I think this is a kind of a materialistic thing, but it is a reality. For some people, it's about career boost. They want that promotion. They want that payment or whatever, the award that they're receiving. So for a career boost, people do publish. But I would always suggest that should not be your priority. If you keep career boost as a priority, you will never be a passionate researcher. You will never publish more than a few articles, because that is a very short-term goal, right? It doesn't work out well in the long term. But nevertheless, it is a motivating factor for some people. Then you have to develop academic contacts. For some people, when you collaborate with other people in research, so whenever we publish a paper, being a single author is hard. I have published a single author article where I'm only the author, but that's not easy. It's always better to collaborate with people, because more the people, the better, the easier the work for us to do. So therefore, you will develop a lot of academic contact when you start publishing together as a collaborator. Okay. And lastly, this is for the PhD scholars, to meet your PhD requirements. Again, this is very similar to the previous point where I said about career boost. Guys, if you're going to think about, oh, I need to, I am done. No, that's very shallow thinking, and that will not get you anywhere. That will not get you anywhere. You have to think long term. You have to think about it from a passionate perspective, right? So, but nevertheless, it is again a motivating factor. Therefore, I covered this topic about to meeting your PhD regulations. Okay. So this is why research and publication. I think this is quite clear. Now comes the hard part, which is choosing the right journal. I always suggest opt for Scopus and Web of Science Index journals. Why do I say that? Because these journals generally follow the peer review process. So there's a peer review process which ensures that the article that you are producing is of high quality and high repute, that other people can trust. Imagine you're publishing something that you expect the world to act on. You expect the government to take you seriously. You expect the government to formulate a policy based on that and then implement it. And you're going to do that with a low quality article? Or should it be of the highest standards? That's why we say publish in Scopus and Web of Science Index journals, because these journals go through the articles in these journals go through the peer review process, which ensures that the quality of the articles published are dependable, are high quality, and have gone through the filtration process, which we call the peer review process. Now, when you go buy a phone, this is for the youngsters. When you buy a phone, I think most of you have branded phones here. No one's bought a phone brand that they don't know. All of you, when you go to a shop or when you shop online on Flipkart or whichever website you're shopping on, you always look for branded phones, right? You want to buy the best branded phone. Why is that? Because you know that you can trust that phone. Okay, you may not know, you are not an electronic engineer. Most of us here, at least I am not an electronic engineer. I don't know how what part of which mobile works how, but I know that if I buy X brand, that will definitely be of high quality and I can trust the mobile. Similarly, in academia, you have some brands, you have some publication houses who are known for their reputation. When you publish in these under these publishers, you can be assured that they are of high quality and they have a reputation that lasts centuries. Some of them are, I am speaking from the social science perspective because I am a social scientist, but then I will be covered. You also know some of the science oriented publishers, but all of them publish everywhere, right? You also have Taylor and Francis, Sage, Springer, Wiley, Oxford, Elsevier. I can go on. Scopus is actually Elsevier's. So, when you look at these brands, you can trust that they will be good publishers, that the article that they'll be good journals. So you have publishers, under the publishers you have these journals, right? So when you publish under any of these journals, you know it's of good quality. Check the period since the journal was indexed in Scopus. It's very important because one is going by the brand. If you go by the brand, 99.9% you will not be tricked anywhere. But then in the off chance, you always make sure the year of the journal in which it was indexed is the older the better. It's like wine, the older the better, right? So the older the better. It basically shows that there's a lot of reputation to the journal. It's been there for a long time. But there are some good journals that are upcoming. We should not discriminate them. They may not be as old as the others, but nevertheless they are still reputed. They will gain reputation eventually, but they still follow the peer review process, which is very, very important, right? So check how long it's been indexed in Scopus. Number 4, avoid journals that ask for money upfront even before acceptance. So what is asking money upfront? You surely will get an offer like this. We are indexed in Scopus. You'll get a mail, junk mail like this. We are indexed in Scopus. Please send your article here. It will get published in 2 days. All you have to do is pay 50,000. Scam alert. A reputed journal will never ask for money upfront. Reputed journals are always following the peer review process. Okay, there is something called article processing charges, which I will explain to you later, but that's not the same as paying upfront. So if you come across any scam like this, please don't fall for it, because I have people who have fallen for it. I have seen people fallen for it and they've fallen really badly. They've lost a lot of money and it has gone. So what they do is, these predatory journals, some of them may temporarily get into Scopus for a few months, but these will not be from reputed publishers. They will be kind of scam publishers, and then you would have never heard of such a publisher. And then once you submit your article and you pay the money, paper is published, after 2 months it's removed from Scopus. This is why I said point number 2, know your brands. Trust them. Safer. There's so many ways of investigating. Don't waste your time. Trust the brands and you will be safe in most of the cases. Right? That's the thing. Choosing the wrong journal once can be detrimental to your career. See, you know what people are doing today? They're hiding their past publications that have been published in these predatory journals after they come to know that that is predatory journal, because that's a black mark on their career. So once you have it on your CV and somebody sees that, they'll tell, okay, this person is publishing in junk journals. They're probably paying and publishing. They're not probably a good academic or a researcher at all. So they have this idea, right? So it's very bad for you to publish in this. Don't think I'll publish today, I'll get my requirements done. Whether it's removed tomorrow from Scopus doesn't matter. But then you are creating a black mark for yourself. Never do that. You take the shortcut, it takes you to the wrong road. It takes you to the wrong destination. So never take shortcuts. Work hard. That's my only solution that I can give to you. Yes. Next slide. So this is the Scopus website. When you click on sources, you see you can type the subject area, and there you can basically type what you're interested in. You can select the title, the publisher, or the ISSN. Usually, if you type title and just type random things like social work or social sciences, you will get a list of journals that have that in their title. Okay, and then you can look into that. So you can go to the next slide. You will see I typed social work there. Next slide. And you can see I have selected one journal called Clinical Social Work, and you can see it's published by Springer Nature, which is a very reputed publisher. I'm sure you've all seen it. Even if you've never published, you have gone to the library, you would have seen a Springer publication, surely, in a book or somewhere. So they're reputed. And you can see the site score. So site score is a metric through which you calculate the impact of a journal from the Scopus point of view. For Web of Science, we have impact factor, right? Some fake journals, they will say our impact factor is 55. They're not even indexed in Scopus or Web of Science, but then they'll trick you. So this is why I said be careful of, wary of predatory journals, right? Let us not have this tag that we publish in predatory journals. Let's change that. That image has to change. Let's do that, right? So these are the brands. I just put this across so that you know the symbols. You might have seen them somewhere. Springer, that horse symbol, and then Wiley, Taylor and Francis with that lamp, and then Sage. They had a different symbol. Now they're slightly modified. The older one was different, but this is the new one, I think. So these are the symbols. These are the brands. I mean, there are Elsevier. There's so many others. Okay, Oxford. I didn't have space, but you know them. Like you know them. You surely come across those publishers somewhere. Therefore, it's better to trust these brands. Yeah. Now, once you selected the publisher, see publishers, under publishers, you have the journals. Under publishers, you have the journals. And once you select the journal, you need to look at certain things. First, read the aim and scope of the journal carefully. This is where a lot of people make a mistake. They have written an article on astrophysics and they are submitting it to a chemistry journal. Why will they accept it? For what joy? That's why I say read the aim and scope of the journal very carefully. I'll tell you how to go through that. Read the aim and scope because it will tell you exactly what they're interested in publishing, right? Try pasting your abstract into a journal suggester. So some of you are very confused. So I don't know, sir, which journal. Well, now you have a bit of help, something called the journal suggester. Every major publisher today has a journal suggester where they explain, where you have an option to paste your article title as well as your abstract, and then it will tell you which journals are most suitable for you for this article, for that particular article, and then you can try sending it to them. But then there are other categories that you need to look at, but that's one way of selecting a journal. Opt for journals with higher acceptance rates. This I can't specify enough. You know what's an acceptance rate? So let's say a journal accept, or a journal takes in 100 submissions a year, or 100 people or 100 articles are submitted to a journal in a year. Out of those 100 articles, if the journal only accepts after the peer review process, I'll explain the peer review process. After the peer review process, if only 20% are accepted and finally published, that means the acceptance rate of the journal is 20%. That means out of 100 articles that are submitted, 20 are published. That is acceptance rate. So technically speaking, higher the acceptance rate, higher the chances that you can publish the article on that journal. So early career researchers, young researchers, PhD scholars, faculty who are trying to publish for the first time, always choose journals with higher acceptance rate. Nobody will tell you all this. I'm explaining the metrics because I have gone through it. I have experienced all this and I'm explaining this to you. No one explains this. Impact factor is only for journals indexed in Web of Science, and site score is for Scopus-Indexed journals. So see, Web of Science is also another indexation site. Some people consider that to be of higher standard. I don't know. I'm not here to debate that. But then both of them are of good reputation, whether it's Scopus or it's Web of Science, both of them. And for the way in which the article journals are rank ordered in Web of Science is through impact factor. In Scopus, they're rank ordered through site score. That's the only thing you need to know. So this is an example of a journal suggester called Jane. It's available online. You can just go www.jane.biosmatics.org. This site basically will give you an option to paste your abstract. Once you paste your abstract there, it will suggest a few journals that are most likely to be similar to your topic, that are most likely to be interested in your topic, right? So this is only one example. But I would prefer, this is a good example, but I would prefer, there are certain publishers who have their own journal suggester. This is the Taylor and Francis journal suggester. So if you're interested in publishing in a Taylor and Francis journal, go to that journal suggester, paste your abstract, and it'll give you the journal that you're interested in. This is, so once you select that, if you want to read about the journal, this part is very important, guys. Lot of us, what they do is they never read the guidelines. You know, it's like going to play a sport without knowing the rules. How will you win? You should read about the journal. You should know the guidelines. So when you click on about this journal, you will read all the metrics on the site, and you'll also go through the, you can also go through the speed and acceptance rates, how long it takes for them to process the whole article, and acceptance rate. So here the acceptance rate of this particular journal is 28%. That means if 100 articles are submitted to that journal every year, 28 articles are finally accepted. So that's that. So it's not very high, but it's not very low. It's somewhere in between. Usually the acceptance rates are somewhere between 5%, even 1%, very high impact faculty journals, to somewhere between 45-50% also. Some I have seen even 60%. It's rare, but it's there. If your field is very niche, then you may have such journals as well. Now we come to the core part of our presentation, which is the process of submitting the article. So I'm going to explain to you step by step what I do, and then I hope you find it useful. The first step is to create an ORC ID. How many of you here have an ORC ID, or ORCID ID we call it? Yeah. So those who don't have, please create an ORC ID. What is an ORC ID? It is the unique identification number that's given to you as a researcher. Let's say your name is Shantanu Mishra, right? So you are a Shantanu Mishra in India. Let's say there's another Shantanu Mishra in the US. What happens when you publish an article under Shantanu Mishra and that researcher claims it? Stolen. So that's why you need to have an ORC ID. When you submit an article, you should mention your ORC ID. That way, when the article is published, that article is directly credited to your account, right? It's like to put it very simply, it's like an Aadhaar card. Everyone has an Aadhaar card, a unique. In American terms, it's a social security number, which uniquely identifies you. So for a researcher, the Aadhaar card is ORC ID. Okay, and there are also other IDs like Scopus ID, and now you have Vidwan ID and all that. But ORC ID is more comprehensive. It has everything that you publish, everything that you do can be recorded through ORC ID, right? So that's very important. Sign up and create an account on the journal's website. So once you have an ORC ID, please ensure that you sign up and create an account on the journal's website, right? Read the guidelines of the journals very carefully. This is very important. That's why I marked it in red. A lot of people don't read the guidelines carefully at all. You know what they do? They just submit the article without seeing. I've done that. I'm saying because I've done that. You should read the guidelines, because the guidelines will tell you what is the maximum word limit that the journal accepts, what font you should use, what's the font size, what should be the margins like, what kind of content should the article be about, or how should it be structured, in other words, and then also most importantly, what referencing format they follow. Every journal has its own referencing format. You're all PhD scholars and faculty. You know that we follow certain referencing formats: APA, MLA, Chicago, right? So each journal has its own referencing format. If you're going to paste your own referencing style in a very haphazard way, they are going to right away reject it. So you should read the guidelines very carefully, which will tell you how to format your article, which is very, very important. Ensure that you adopt the format, including the font size, spelling, word limit, citation format, types of manuscripts, and so on. So there are different types of manuscripts that you can submit. Sometimes the manuscripts that you submit can be a research article. Sometimes it can be a review article. Sometimes it can be a case study. Sometimes it can be letters to the editor, which are generally not peer reviewed. And then you have all of these kinds of articles that you can submit. So you should read the guidelines carefully, which will tell you for a particular type of article, what format should you follow, what kind of word limit should you follow. All this is explained clearly in the journal's guidelines. So I request all of you to read the journal's guidelines very, very carefully. This is a trick no one will tell you. Take a printout of a recently published article by that journal and read it carefully. Read it. Why? Because if you're a first time researcher, and if you have not published, and if you're not aware of this whole system, take a printout and read it so that you get an idea of the standard in which the article expects your article to be in. It's a sample article, right? You read it and you know, wow, this is the kind of terminology they use. This is the way they paraphrase their sentences. This is the word limit they expect. You know how I used to do? I used to check the word limit of 10 articles. I used to paste it and check. Okay, this one is 5,000. This one is 7,000. Average. I do an average. Huh? I check. This is the word. Like it's very methodical. I follow the methodical process. So now I stopped doing that because I've gotten used to it. But then when you start out, this is very, very useful. They'll tell you a word limit, but then you can see the average word limit of each of the articles. But the best is to take printout of one article, read it carefully, and see what it tells you, and then design your own, or work on your own article, right? Tailor your article based on the title and aim or the scope of the journal. As I said, if you are submitting an article to astrophysics journal, then your article should be about astrophysics. It should not be about chemistry. And it should, and more importantly, in astrophysics, you have so many other things inside. Maybe your article is on something like gravitational forces. The journal is on gravitational forces. You should not write an article on atoms or something, right? So this has to be like tailored to the aim and scope of the journal. So please read the aim and scope of the journal, and based on that, tailor your article, modify your article accordingly. But you can't modify it to a point you completely change it. You can't do that. But then that's why you should choose a journal carefully in the beginning, and then slightly modify if required based on the journal's interest and scope. Okay, next slide. So now we come to the process of submitting article. Till now, you've basically tailored your article, you've prepared your article. Now we'll go into the submission process. The first step is to create an anonymous version of your article with author details. Now, this again a disclaimer. Every journal has its own format, so I cannot say a universal format exists. However, generally speaking, this is how most journals will process, because I've submitted many places. I will tell you how it works. Generally, they ask you to submit an anonymous version of the article. Anonymous version means your name is not there, your ID, your affiliation, none of it is mentioned. None of it that anyone can read can identify who you are. There's a reason for this, and this is the key of the peer review process. So anonymous version of the article has to be uploaded, and sometimes they will ask you for a non-anonymous version also, which has all your details and the article. Or they may ask for a title page, separate title page, that is a separate document as a title page that will have all the details such as your name, your ORC ID, your affiliation, your email address, and everything is there. So that is a title page. So once you have these things in order, there has to be certain other things that need to be included in the guidelines, such as the certain things that have been that should be included in the article, which is ethical consideration, acknowledgement, data deposition, references. This is generally, I'm talking from the social science perspective, but I think most journals follow this generally. You should have something called ethical consideration, especially if you're dealing with the social sciences or medical related profession, wherein you basically say that yes, there were human participants involved, and we have secured an ethical clearance from the university or the department or the college where we're studying. So every college or university has a research director. They have an ethics board, or sometimes the research director is involved in approving them, and he or she or the board will give you a letter after going through your aim, scope, and everything. They will tell this article or this research work does not violate anyone's rights, and we grant ethical clearance. This is before you conduct your study, so you should get the ethical clearance done and then start your study. Ethical clearance is, and then they will give you a number, a reference number that you need to quote in the article. Then again, not only in the non-anonymous version, not in the anonymous version, because in the anonymous version, no numbers, no references should be there that can be used to identify you or your affiliation, right? Then we have acknowledgement, where you basically acknowledge the people who have helped you with your research and everything. Data deposition. See, now there are many sites where you can upload your research data. Most journals today will ask for the data. So let's say you used the data to produce a result, a statistical test. Now the data has to be submitted to the journal because they want to check if you manipulated it. It's very important. So I have all my papers data deposited on a site called figshare.com. That's a free site. You can upload your data there. And then as soon as you upload, it will give you a DOI. It will give you a link that you can add to your article. Say the data of this article can be found here. I am not lying. This is my honest work. Here you go. Take the data and do what you want with it. But you will never find that I faked it because it's original, it's genuine, right? So that's a way of showing that you're transparent as a researcher. And it also helps other researchers, because let's say tomorrow somebody wants to use your data to publish an article. They can use it and they'll cite you. They'll say, thank you, we've used your data, here you go. That's a credit to you, right? So contribute to the growth of the subject. And of course, most journals will require you to submit the data. So it's better that you do it on your own anyway. and then references, which format depends on the journal. I've mentioned all this. Uh, Now, see, earlier journals, and even now, some journals accept articles in LaTeX format, but generally it's doc or docx, right? So even if you have a MacBook, please save it as, don't save it as dot pages, they will reject it. Save it as doc, Word doc, because I have a Mac and I do that, right? So that's important. Then add a suitable keywords in the app. See, the keywords are very important. They're called keywords for a reason, because they are optimized for the search engines. So when on Google, someone searches that topic, if you have the right keywords, they will pop up first. So that improves your visibility of your research and citability, probability of being cited as well. um, Add suitable keywords, and also ensure that you choose between the first author and the corresponding author. Now, who's the first author, who's the corresponding author? I'm sure you're all PhD scholars. You have been told that you have to produce 2 articles wherein you are a first author and your guide is a corresponding author. That's what you've been told. So first author is someone who conceptualized the entire study. They basically kind of they do the most of the work of the article. The corresponding author is an author who has also contributed to the work, but is also corresponding or talking to the journal. They are the ones who are basically sending the article to the journal, and once the peer review process is ongoing, there are comments that they will get from the reviewers, and the corresponding author responds to those comments. That's the challenging part of the peer review process. So corresponding author also have a pretty important role to play. Sometimes the first author and the corresponding author are the same person. In my case, in majority of my articles, I am both the first author and the corresponding author. Okay, but in your case it may be different depending on the role and the work that you have to do. You can divide yourselves. Review carefully before submitting. So when you click on all the details, the submission process is all online. Back then people used to email the articles to the editor. You don't do that anymore. There are editorial managers where there is a proper system where you upload your article, it goes through the system, it checks if you missed anything, it will tell you, sorry, you can't submit, you missed this here, right? Just like how you book a train ticket, you have to mention your name and everything. Similarly, there's a portal that manages all this. There's the editorial manager, and so you have to make sure that you satisfy. So it will give you a PDF at the end for you to review. It will collate everything that you submitted into a PDF, and it will say, please check if everything is okay. Then click submit. Once you submit, you can't do anything. So once you submit, if there is an error, the web administrator will contact you. Yeah. So this is how you go. There's an option called go to submission site, and it will take you to the editorial manager where you can submit the article. Yes. So now you submitted your article. Now you submitted. What's next? What do I do now, sir? Now you let the journal do the work. Now they will process your article. So the first thing is you submit on day 1. Usually within a week, usually the next day or sometimes the next hour, depends on the speed of the journal. It goes to the web administrator. So the web administrator is someone who sits in the editor, who's part of this publisher or the journal, who basically check whether you have followed the formatting of the journal correctly, whether your time space, your space, the font size, the formatting, the referencing style, the title page. Have you all followed all that? That is what the web administrator will check. They are usually not a scholar or a person of academic, maybe not an academician, could be, but mostly not. So what they do, they are trained to check for errors, and they will tell you. They will write back to you. They will email you back. They will submit your article. They will send the article back on the portal, and they'll send you an email saying, "Hey, you forgot to add the title page. Hey, your formatting is wrong. Please work on it and resubmit it." They will not reject it, but in some cases they may. Let's say you submit a completely unrelated article, they will reject there only. They'll say, sorry, this is not what we do. It's a wrong place. But then in most of the cases you don't. But even there, 10% people get rejected. It happens sometimes, rarely, but it happens. Then once you clear the web administrator, let's say your formatting is correct, you have followed the guidelines very carefully, you have been very, have you seen this ad when I say, please read the offer documents carefully before investing? Same way, you read the guidelines carefully, you will not be in trouble, right? Once you clear the stage, you move on to the next stage, which is the editor. Now, who is the editor? Editor is the boss, right? He or she is the boss of the journal. They are basically the ones who make all the important decisions, whether to accept or reject your article. Now, the editor is usually, in academic terms, is also a professor like me or someone else, because they usually have full-time jobs, right? They're working in a university like Harvard or somewhere, and then they also have this role of an editor. Yeah. So they have to, so that means they're very busy people. Okay, they're very busy people, so they don't always have time to, they're not checking their email every 5 minutes. They don't do that. So once it reaches the editor will initiate a peer review process based on a few things. The first thing they will check is, does the article meet the aim and scope of the journal? They are the editor of the journal, so they will make sure whether this article is appropriate for this journal. They will check that. Once they check that, they will also check whether the quality of the article is good, whether the general writing style, the grammatical errors, they'll check for the methodological rigor. Because remember, this editor is the professor in that subject in which you have submitted the article. So let's say professor of social work, one of the top universities, huh? So they know whether what you've written is trash or is the truth, right? So once the editor is satisfied, now most of the articles, I would say about 50 to 60% of the articles are rejected at the editorial stage, because the editor feels the quality is not good enough, or they feel that it is not. You cannot manipulate it, my friends. There is no loophole. Please remember that. You have to work hard and make sure the article is of good quality. You can get desk rejected. I got desk rejected and bashed so badly once. I was 23 years old, and like a big shot, I sent an article. That editor bashed me left and right. He said, first of all, but not all editors are like that. Some editor will just reject and they will not give you a reason. But some editors want you to grow. That guy realized that I was a young fellow, and he said, listen, first of all, your formatting is all wrong. Number two, your methodology is trash. I was 23, I had not even started my PhD. So your methodology is trash. You don't know anything about statistics. And he started, but he didn't trash me just like that. He told me how to rectify it. He said, make these changes and send it somewhere else, but don't come back to me. Huh? So that's the editor. A good editor will always give you a reason why. They'll not be so blunt. But there are some editors who are blunt, because they have so many articles that they get, they don't have time. They say, your article is rejected, thank you, don't feel discouraged, bye. Right? So that happens a lot, but that's called desk rejection, and that happens to almost 50%. I said 10% web admin. That's rare, but let's say around 50 to 60% of the articles are eliminated in these two stages. Now, let's say your article is really good. Huh? The editor is impressed. He said, okay, this is stuff. This has content. This has some power. So let's send it to review. So then he or she will find anonymous reviewers who basically are experts in not just the subject. They are usually the experts on the topic in which you have written the article. So let's say I publish an article, a scale on casework effectiveness. So the journal's editor might be a social work professor, but he will send it to a person who's expert in scale development and who's an expert in casework, he or she. And they'll send it to them, and they will send an email, official email to them saying, we have found that you have a good academic research history on this topic, and we would like you to review this article. Could you please do that? It's a favor that they're asking, and it's also an honor because it adds to your profile as a reviewer. I have reviewed almost 15 to 20 articles myself internationally, and I get these options. And sometimes I'm busy, I politely decline, but 99.9% of the time I will accept it, because someone's work has been sent to me, and I respect that, and I review that as long as it's in my domain, and it comes there. So it's sent to the reviewer. So usually it is 2 to 3 reviewers. There are two different people in different parts of the world probably, and they're sent to them. And this whole process, with the editor, I told you, because they're busy people, it can take between 1 to 2 months. With the reviewer, it will take between 3 months to even 12 months. The reviewer may be like out of town, or maybe they're not available, and sometimes the editor has to search for multiple reviewers till he or she gets 2, which is the minimum required by the journal in some cases. So once the reviewers agree, the status changes on the portal. See, everything is mentioned on the portal. You can check where your article is. Web admin, next step. Editor, next step, out for review. That means you're cleared the first. You can celebrate. You should celebrate. You say, yes, I cleared the first 2 stages. I've gone to the 3rd stage, which is good if you're a first-time researcher. That means you have stuff. That's good. And then it moves on to the out for review stage, where the reviewers edit. Now that can take between 3 months to 12 months, as I said. The reviewers will read your article thoroughly. And I mean thoroughly. They read line by line. They read it line by line. I do that. Everyone does that. That's the process we should follow. We read line by line, and then we will respond. The reviewer will respond and say, okay, your introduction is like this. This could be modified. Your methodology is a bit messed up. This is missing. You could add that. Your statistics is a bit off. You can add that. You can rearrange your articles this way. So usually, and this is only one reviewer, usually you have 2 or 3 reviewers. Okay. I have had a case where I had 4 reviewers on me and I had 5 rounds of review. It was a battle between me and the reviewer. Like I was on it. They were like, give up, you will not win. I said, I will win. And we continued for 1 year. And the reviewer was like, you're done. It's good. You can publish it. So the reviewer is the kind of a guy who so they will never communicate directly to you. The reviewer will never communicate directly to you. They will never know who you are and you will never know who they are. That's anonymous blind review. Do you think predatory journals follow all this? That's why they're predatory, right? So the anonymous peer review system, once the reviewers give the comments back, usually it is 3 to 4 pages long of long comments. I had a scenario where my article was 25 pages. I had 15 pages of comments. 15 pages for 25. I said, come on, man. But then every comment was worth it. I said, wow. Every criticism that you get makes you stronger. How many of you watch Dragon Ball Z as a kid? Every time a hero gets beaten, next time he's stronger for some reason. The same way, every time we get rejected or the comments are harsh, I got better. I got better every time. From nobody, I started publishing multiple papers. So you should read the reviewers carefully. Don't dismiss them. Some people have a big ego, right? They say, who's this guy to trash my work? Huh? But then you read it carefully and accept where you're wrong. That is hallmark of a true scholar. People who can accept when they're wrong, when the facts are on their face, not someone who hides or gives excuses, right? So that's what you do. So if you're lucky, so there are 3 possible outcomes that you can possibly get. Rejected. The reviewers will say, this is trash. Your journal is too good for this. This is not a right place to publish. This is not a right article. Please reject it. They will send a message to the editor. They will never contact you. They will send it to the editor. Sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you will get something called a major revision, wherein both the reviewers believe that the article is of good quality, and they say, however, there are some major changes that need to be made, and they'll say major revisions, and here are the 5 pages of comments. Sometimes, which is very, very, very rare, you may get a minor change. That means your article is so good that the reviewers are like, except this one line, everything is perfect. Publish it. And that's very rare. That has happened to me only once. And it's very rare. It doesn't happen. Okay. So if that happens, the editor is very happy. The editor will quickly, the first stage is done. If they reject it outrightly, you will get a mail from the editor and they'll say, sorry, after the peer review process, the reviewers do not find your paper of good quality. Thank you for trying. Better luck next time. Or they will say, if it's a major revision, they'll say, your article is, the reviewers find merit in your article, but here are the changes that you need to make. And then they'll the editor will attach the comments that the reviewers have made. And then you have to respond to the comments line by line. I'll show you an example of that. Okay. Line by line, you have to respond. You can't just write a paragraph. Line by line, you have to explain what changes you have made. And not just respond, you have to make the changes. They'll say change the title. You have to change the title. Unless you have a very good reason not to. You can defend yourself. Some places you defend, some places you have to give in. It's like sparring. Okay. And then you have to say, okay, sometimes there's a very stupid suggestion by reviewers. It happens. I am doing a study on scale development. Somebody is asking on regression. I said, this is not relevant to my topic. I'm sorry. But if it was, I would make the change. But it's not relevant. I'm sorry. Right. So the editor understand. Okay. So same way, but most reviewers are sensible people. They are experts in that field. So they don't make such mistakes. You have to respond to each of the comments and you have to re-upload your article after making the changes. Usually you have something called track changes in Word. I think you know that. When you make the changes, it changes into red, green and all that. Sometimes you can highlight the changes so that the editor and the reviewer knows what changes you made. Once that is done, you have to re-upload the article along with the response to the reviewers. That's a separate document where you respond line by line, right? Now, once you upload this, it goes through the same cycle. It goes to the web admin. If again, the quality is not good, there's problem with the formatting, they will say, sorry, you have to change the format. If it is good, they'll go. Again, it goes to the editor. Once the editor receives the revised article, he or she will again send it to the same reviewers. So, and again 3 months to 6 months. This is why they say publishing one article a year is a challenge in such journals. That is why 2 papers in Scopus-Indexed journals is equal to a PhD. That's why. Now you know. So this is the rough process you have to go through. So once it is done and you goes back to the, now the reviewers review the changes that you made. They say, wow, good. Thank you for working on the suggestions that I suggested. But here are 5 more suggestions. So he gives more suggestions. So it comes back for the second round of review. Editor will say, Well done, but here are more suggestions. So you do work on it again, and again you send it back. Again it goes to peer review. Most journals you will have to go through at least 2 rounds of peer review. I told you I had a scenario where I had submitted an article. It went for 5 rounds. 5 rounds, 4 reviewers, one giving an opposite idea to the other, and I have to satisfy all of them. That is, it's like a 5-headed snake coming at you. But you gotta like deal with all of them, and then eventually the editor, all the reviewers like, we are done. This guy, he's good. Let's get through it. And then the editor's like, congrats. And that email that you get saying that your paper is accepted is like a big party. Like I go to my favorite restaurant. Every paper for me is like a party. In my home, we celebrate that every paper that gets accepted because they know the rigor. They see how I work, and I'll tell you how I work, and they know the rigor that goes beyond it. So that's respectful. So there's a saying, don't don't do things that are easy. Don't do things that are expedient. Do things that are meaningful. Okay, don't go the easy way out, guys. That's not going to add to your career. That's not going to be meaningful to you. So choose articles, choose journals that are of good reputation, right? That's next year. So eventually the whole process can take between 6 months to 1.5 years or even 2 years. I have had an article that took 1.5 years, honestly. And science people, they laugh. They say some of us takes 2 years, bro. Come on. And then it depends on the speed of the journal. So responding to the reviewers' comments, I will show you an actual example. You can go to the next slide where I will explain how you respond line by line. This is a comment actually from one of my articles. So the reviewer says, there are some suggestions for clarity. The thesis or hypothesis statement includes certain variables. On pages 9 to 13 is the discussion of the variables under the study and results, but without much of an introduction of these variables earlier. There needs to be a clearer presentation of what the authors are focusing on the study and so on. And how I responded, you can see at the bottom. Response or action taken. I said, dear reviewer, thank you for the suggestion. Please do that. These people are not paid, guys. These reviewers are not paid. They are just like you and me. Some professor who's taken 2 hours of their life's time to read your work and regrade it. For what joy? Right? So therefore, please thank them. Please be respectful of reviewers. Thank them. Say thank you for that suggestion. That's very useful. And yes, you are correct. In order to address this issue, a new subheading called important variables has now been included. The section introduces the reader to the variables. Moreover, the section titled study participants has been moved higher and so on. So I've commented. Eventually, this article got accepted because I have responded to them. I'm not just said thank you. I made the changes that they've asked for because I felt that the changes are logical. Makes sense. If it doesn't, I would say no. I would say no. I'd say thank you, but sorry, you're wrong. I won't say sorry, you're wrong, but I would say I don't find this of good merit. I don't think it's useful. I don't understand why it's so useful, right? So once your paper is accepted, it goes through something called typesetting, which I forgot to mention in the previous slide. Typesetting is wherein after your paper get accepted, there is a production editor, okay, who's usually a localite from India or someone, or depends on the country you're in. Usually they have local this one. Usually journals are usually American or British or something like that. But then the production takes place in some usually local. So there what happens is there's a production editor from that publisher who will contact you after a few days and they'll say, congratulations again, your article is accepted. We will be sending you a copyrights agreement. Please sign the copyrights agreement. So the copyrights agreement is something that's been discussed a lot in the academic field because some people believe it's unfair. Some people believe it's fair, it's okay. So there's a lot of debate about it. Basically, the copyrights agreement says, I'm putting it in a very short and simple way. You transfer your article ownership to the publisher. Now, Sage or Taylor and Francis or Springer owns that, the final version of the article. They own the final version. You're transferring the rights to them. That's the price you pay if you want to publish in these journals. It's very simple. But then you hold certain rights as well. You also have certain rights, and I'll tell you what those are. So once the once the copyrights are signed, usually you just have to say agreed and all that. Once you sign the copyrights, they will send you a proof, a final proof, which is checked for grammar errors, grammatical errors, and everything. They'll send you the final proof, and they may ask you some questions. They'll say, is this reference correct? Is this spelling correct? Is this the second author? Is this the first author? Please check that and confirm. It's all online, right? It's an online editor, and you check yes, 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 and click submit. That's it. That's your job. And after a week or maybe 10 or 15 days, sometimes even a month, your article will be found online. It will be published. So this is the whole peer review process. And the copyrights are different for different publishers are different. Now comes the part which people are not, um, which people, a lot of people mistake. Okay, so there's something called article processing charges, APC. That is not the same as paying upfront for an article to be published even before the peer review process. You heard the peer review process that I just explained. What predatory journals do is they'll say, why do you have to go through peer review? Submit the article to me, tomorrow you'll get published. No peer review. But what if your article is trash, which probably it is, right? But then that's how they follow. But what do these journals do, these reputed journals? Only after an article is accepted, because no money is involved in submission or peer review, no money. Once the paper is accepted, most journals, not all, but I would say 80 to 90% of the journals, they have a hybrid publishing system wherein they will tell you, they will send you an email, they'll say your article is accepted. Now you have an option in the copyrights, you'll have an option to choose to publish in open access or subscription based models. You know what's a subscription based model? When you go online to read an article, you can't say please pay $70. That's subscription model. Now, if you pay for open access, which is usually like some $2,000 or something, which is like 3 lakhs or 2 lakhs, you can publish open access. That means the whole article is visible for anyone to read as soon as they click it. Now, what's the advantage of that? You get more citations, you get more views. This is why wealthy nations are able to afford open access and they're publishing open access. We can't. Can I pay 3 lakhs? No, most people can't. So we have to opt for subscription based models. But then what do some people do is they kind of break the copyrights. So the copyright says, since you are not publishing in open access, you don't have to pay. If you're not opting for APC, if you're not opting for article processing charges, you don't have to pay. That means the paper can be published in subscription based model, and then no one can actually open it. But then what some people do is they violate the copyrights. They will download a PDF of their article, the final version of the article, and they'll upload it on ResearchGate. That's not right. That's breaking copyrights, guys, and you'll get caught. Don't do that. Instead, I will teach you some ways in which you can share your article, full article, in legal ways. There are certain legal ways of sharing, and I'll tell you how to do that, right? Some publishers will allow you to share the accepted version of an article after an embargo period. So most journals, including Sage, Taylor and Francis, today, as of today, they have the policies wherein after 1 year, this is not for all journals, most of the journals, after 1 year, you can share the accepted version. You remember the editor when he sent a mail to you, he or she sent a mail to you saying that your article is accepted? That version of the article, that revised version, that you have to keep safe in your computer. That you can upload after 1 year. After 1 year of the publication. You can upload it on ResearchGate and all that. And they will tell you certain formats in which you have to upload it. You have to say this is an accepted version, the final version can be found here. So people generally don't care whether it's accepted version or final version because there's not much difference except typesetting and typological errors. So what I do is I read the copyrights very carefully and I upload the accepted version of the article after the embargo period legally. So if you read my articles on the right side, you will see the ResearchGate link. You can see the accepted version. Most people are not bothered whether it's accepted or they know that it's an article. Findings are going to be nevertheless the same. Results are the same. Process methodology is the same. Then what's the problem? Only thing is it doesn't look beautiful. It doesn't have that symbol and all that. Doesn't matter. It's still the paper, right? So you need to read that. Some journals also allow you to publish the original version of the article immediately after acceptance. But original version is not worth publishing because it may have a lot of errors and it has not gone through that peer review, that original version. So better not upload that. Wait for a year and upload the accepted version. That's the legal thing to do. Some journals have or most journals nowadays have something called a shareable link, wherein you can generate a temporary link of the full article of the journal or the final version of the article of the journal, which is a read-only version. Nobody can download it, but they can read it. You can share that on certain websites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and some social media sites where somebody, and also you can email it to your friend who wants to read it, read the full article in the final version, but not be able to download it or otherwise. So that's a way that they control that thing. Next slide. Don't violate copyright laws, guys, please. Yeah. Next slide. This is an example of Springer's own mechanism. See, they also want to improve the readability of their articles. So they provide this. So you have to paste your DOI, that is the article's link, digital object identifier, and then you have to submit your email. If you are the author, you will get that shareable link, which is like a very small link. You click on that, it's like a tiny URL. You click on that, the whole article is open. Final version of the article is open for you to read. So most journals provide this temporary. These last for around 100 clicks or maybe 90 days, depending on the journal. So every journal has its own policy. I have gone through many of them. Yeah. Next. Now, the core of my talk, apart from the publication process, is the myths that I want to really break today. Because I don't want you to be scammed, and I don't want you to encourage others being scammed either. Right? So I want to break some myths. The first myth is that you can pay and publish in reputed journals. I already broke that myth in the very beginning. Reputed publishers will never ask you for money upfront. Only after the article is accepted, they will ask for APC if you're interested. If you're not interested, they'll say, okay, fine, subscription based model it is. But then they will never ask for money upfront. I have published all my articles and I have never paid a single penny. Never paid a single penny to publish my articles. Don't fall for the scam. Okay. Number two, the other myth is that any journal can be listed on Scopus and Web of Science. No, only reputed ones. Some journals may find a way to get into Scopus temporarily. And the way you find out whether it's temporary is if they ask for money upfront. They say, we are indexed in Scopus, pay us 50,000, we'll publish. Scam. Don't fall for that. Also make sure that it's from a reputed publisher. I told you that earlier. There's another myth that you can manipulate the peer review process. If I know who the peer reviewer is, no, you won't know who the peer reviewer is. It's anonymous, it's blind. It will be sent to another continent and you don't know them. It's a big continent, right? You don't know them. So better not think that you can manipulate. You cannot manipulate it. And then there's another myth that you can publish using Chat GPT. Sorry, they have developed techniques for that. So as soon as you submit your article, there's an option that says, please state whether you've used any kind of generative AI. If you have, you have to set it. Even if you say, if you skip that, they will find. They have mechanisms to find out whether your article, whether what you've written is from AI or not. So they have tools for that, and that's a very black mark on your academic career. So don't do that, guys. Don't write on your own, right? Don't do that. The other myth is that people publish in Scopus-Indexed journals because they have contacts. How am I supposed to know the Harvard professor? Is he my buddy? And they are not interested in being friends with you. They are interested in high quality articles. They are interested in they want quality work. Okay, they are not interested in publishing substandard articles, because once they start publishing substandard articles, that journal goes down the drain. So does the editor. So does the whole publishing industry. So they don't do that. They'll publish only quality articles. So no matter what contact you have, what friend, my friend works, no. You can't. Get that through your head, because people still think that's possible. It's not. Okay, next slide. So this is kind of a personal story maybe. So people are asking, sir, you published 4 articles in 2024 in Web of Science Scopus Result. 2023 you had 3, and now you published recently. Last week I had a publication. Where do you find time, sir? And I'm not an academician. I'm a social worker. I go to the field. I go to rural camps. I have study tours. I travel half the time. Apart from my teaching and research, I have 2 scholars under me. I got so much work. I'm married too, right? So I have a lot of work, personal commitments, everything. But then, how do I still manage? I am a time thief. I call myself a time thief because I steal time. Most people are they. When will you write your article? When I get 6 months of leave, I will write. Sorry, that 6 months never gonna come. This, can you go back? This is actually an image of the flood that happened in my apartment last year, 2024. My car got washed off, my 2-wheeler Ather gone, okay? And I was on a boat. My whole family was on a boat. The NDRF rescued us. Otherwise, God knows what would have happened. And then I lived in the college for 7 days. The college was kind enough to give me an accommodation, by the way. They were kind enough to kind of allow me to stay. And then my family, I had to send them off to the another state, including my wife. I had to send them because we had no other place to stay. And after the flood, the water receded. There was still a lot of damage. My car was still damaged. My 2-wheeler was gone. I had no modes of transportation. I live in Yelahanka, guys. It's like another part of Bangalore, right? And I've been traveling there since my college days. So it's really far. So I have to go by auto. Okay, I go by auto. Okay, and that's my netbook over there, small little Chromebook, and I wrote an article and got that published in the flood. Right? Do I need 6 months of time? Do I need AC room? No. I put on my headphone and I go. Right? You need to have that motivation. I'm not saying I'm an inspirational person, but I'm saying if I can do it in a flood, I think most people can at least try if they have free time. You try to squeeze free time out of their everyday life. Stop using, overusing your social media accounts, wasting your time. Do something productive for yourself and for society. Right? So I did that in a flood. I think you can do that as well. I had 4 publications in that flood year. Yeah. Next slide. So this is what I call being a time thief. Be a time thief, guys. Never wait for a full day or time for research. See, when I was doing my PhD, I wrote a paragraph in a day. A paragraph in a day. I didn't write a page, a paragraph. I finished my PhD in 3 years. Started 2014, 2017. I was a PhD and a UGC NET JRF scholar. I was being paid by the government to do research. But I finished in 3 years. Bye bye. I never wasted time. But I didn't overwork also. I worked in a systematic, orderly fashion. So never wait for a free time. You have to make time for it and work every single day. So some people are morning people, some people are night owls. Okay, I am a morning person. I wake up every day at 4:30, 5. I'm up, and before anyone else is up in the house, I'm done writing for 1 hour. I've squeezed in a paragraph. I've squeezed in a page, and before you know it, in a month, my article is out for submission. That's how I do it. So you should squeeze time from your own daily life. Either be a there's no other way. Either be a morning person or be a night owl. Your choice. I'm sure either most of you are either one of them. So you have to decide where you are and squeeze time there. Spending more time in the library is very useful. You have internet. You have a bit of silence. Nobody disturbing you. If someone else disturbing you, I put on the headphones and you start working. Right. So use that. Work a little every day on research. I generally suggest it's not. I'm not promoting anything, but I'm saying a Chromebook is useful because it has a lot of battery life and you can type a lot. But this is useful especially if you're not dealing with data and you're just into writing, a lot of writing. That's useful. If you are into data analysis, you need a Windows laptop or something else, something better. But then a Chromebook is very useful for traveling. Like you saw how I was writing on the auto. It is like 10 inches. I can use it on a lap and I can just write. Choose to work using Google Drive because you can save what you are writing. I use it on my laptop, office laptop here in the lunch break, and then when I go home, uh, I work on my Mac, but it's saved. I continue where I started. So that's where. Seek opportunities. Don't wait for it to come. Never say that I will get this opportunity tomorrow. No, that tomorrow will never come. You have to steal time. Our life is limited, guys. We have a very few short years to live. And in that short years, whatever you can contribute to the research community, to the academic community, to yourself, you have to do. So don't wait for something to come. You're just wasting your time. And I wish I could go back to your age. I could be even more productive. But then I'm past that age. I'm 34 now. Not that old, but still could have been younger, right? Next page. Some demotivating moments because a lot of people give up as soon as they get their first rejection. Don't do that. You know, there was a time when people laughed at me. They've called me all kinds of names because I kept repeatedly kind of failing. So there was a moment where I was repeatedly failing. I was getting rejected constantly. People are laughing. Rejected again. How does that feel? I said bad, but I'm not giving up. And I didn't. And here I am today. Right? So when you're getting rejected by the web admin, editor, or reviewer, never feel bad. Learn from the mistakes that they're telling. They are not there to just hurt you. They're actually there to help you. They want to tell you where you're wrong. A good teacher, what do? Even if you make a mistake, they say, very good. They don't do that. They say, you're wrong, man. Should have done better. And here's how you could have done better. That's what you learn. And I'm always looking when I get a rejection, even now when I get a rejection, I'm always looking for some comments. I'm looking for some suggestions on how I can improve it and send it to another journal. So once it's rejected, they will say, you're rejected, here is the reason, but you don't send it back, send it to some other journal. That's what they say. Seek advice from experts who have published previously. Please work with people who have published previously. The reason is they have experience. They will tell you this process, which I think now you are aware of. Collaborate with experts on upcoming researchers. So work with people who are upcoming researchers who are public. I'm not promoting myself, but I'm saying you need to do that because they are usually people with a lot of energy. and they're also there to, they want to prove to themselves and to others that they can do it. And you need someone with a lot of energy like that, and if you tie up with them, you get published. I have published, collaborated with a lot of my students and my research scholars as well, and they have also benefited through that. They have learned through that process, they have contributed, and they have learned, and they have published today. So that's always collaborate with them. Work on multiple articles at the same time. This is the secret. If I am publishing 4 articles in a year, that means I'm working on 7, because the next 3 will come next year. So the article that got published last week was something that I started last year. Takes time. You know what some people do? They'll submit one article and they're like, yeah, I'm waiting, yeah. Well, after 6 months, rejected. What do? Yeah, wasted, right? So work on multiple articles. Don't sit there like, I have submitted an article, I am done. You know, as soon as I click submit, new tab, next article. That's how you got to work. Only then you get multiple publications in a year. It's hard. I'm not saying everyone should be able to do that, but I'm saying if you want to do that, that's how you do it. Never too late to start work. Never call yourself or never label yourself, which I've mentioned at the bottom. Don't say I'm so old, I can't do this, or don't say things like, I don't know methodology. You have to start somewhere, and you need to learn to fail. How did you start riding a cycle? You didn't like get onto a cycle and become a track racer, right? You fell 10 times, probably broke your arms, your legs, but then you got onto it. That's how you got to do it. You have to be resilient to failure. I teach a topic in my class called resilience. I really take it to, literally take it for what it is, and I do apply it in my life. I'm resilient. I fail every day, but I don't get rejected. I don't show where I fail, because nobody publicizes failure, but it happens often. But you should never label yourself and never feel down. Yeah. So yeah, next slide. So I guess this is another system that I want to talk about. This is called Chaos. This is not a Scopus-Indexed journal or publisher, but they are an open access publishing platform which do not charge any fees. So you can submit your preprint. You know what's a preprint? That's not the final version of the article. You send it there, and you will get a lot of comments at the bottom, where people will say this article is good, bad. Based on the comments, you can work on your article and send it to a proper journal, like a Scopus-Indexed journal, right? That's an option for people who are getting rejected constantly, and they are sick of it, and they want to know what they're doing wrong. And these reviewers will tell you what you're doing wrong. So that's an option if some people are interested in. I'm just saying, I have one paper there. Yeah, next slide. So that's who I am, Dr. Ramagokrishnan. You can call me Gokul. This is my LinkedIn profile and my YouTube channel. These are all my other channels. You can scan them, and you can maybe connect with me if you're interested. So I hope this session was useful, and I'm open to questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful and well-structured session. I'm sure most of you have gained clarity and direction from your guidance. Now we shall open the floor for a brief question and answer session. If any of you have questions, please raise your hand, and also please note that your questions are being recorded.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, you spoke about the quiz.
Can you just, yeah.
The quiz that you talked about.
Yeah.
Can we again send that for publication with the same title?
So there is an option on Chaos which allows you to publish either as a preprint or as a final article. Now, see, I was not looking for comments. I was looking to publish it in open access without paying APC. That's why I published on Chaos. But there is an option when you submit as a preprint. So when you publish it as a preprint, it will always remain as a preprint. And then you can submit the same article with the same title to another journal, but mention that it's the preprint can be found here. Now, it depends on the journal. Some journals may ask you to change the title. Some of them may not. They say it's okay. So it depends on the journal, but preprinting is very, very common in the sciences, because let's say I've discovered a new vaccine for COVID. I can't wait 15 months for the article process to take place. So I put it out as a preprint. So that the global community can comment on it, and then the work gets done faster. So that's the way of doing it. So you can do both. You can publish it as a final version or as a preprint. It's your choice. It gives you that option. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
One thing, the publishers you have
Yes,
shown
sir.
us, reputed publishers and all. So it's not always likely. For example, there are some journals which are published by Sage,
Yeah.
also Springer and other journals,
Yes.
but not part of Scopus also.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But they are very, very few in number.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at majority of the articles by these reputed publishers, 90% of the cases, or 99 also you can say, 95, about 90 percentile, you will find it in Scopus. Why I'm saying is because some people are confused how to choose a journal. I see the first step is choose the right publisher. That is the first step, because that way you are sure that this is a good brand. Now next is whether it is peer review, whether it is Scopus Index. You have to check on the Scopus website. That you have to always double check. I always double check. But if you generally can't go wrong if you go with the reputed publisher. That's a fail safe way, I'm saying. Because so many people give so many suggestions. Read this title, it could be fake. I'm saying no. Check the publisher first, because that tells you if it's a good brand. Then you go into the details. But yeah, I agree. There are some publishers, some other journals may not be, but majority, large majority are in the Scopus.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Then one more thing. So, for example, as you said, some journals are will be there for a very short term. Then they'll be removed.
Yes.
But like I have seen articles while cross verifying
Yeah.
some faculty articles, even though the journal is not there in Scopus after few months or maybe
Yeah.
few years, but article remains in Scopus.
Yes. So Scopus has a thing wherein once the article is published in
Remains.
Scopus, it will remain there. It's a thing, because author should not be cheated. I think that's the main thing they
Yeah.
have. But then still, it's not a good idea, because someone checks the journal, they will know it's not a reputed journal. So you somehow gotten into it, but it's fake. It's not. It's a predatory journal. So that's not good on your. That doesn't look good on your academic calendar, your CV. So yeah.
Also, like for example, I have seen in some journals there will be some kind of concession for authors from certain regions.
Yes, that is
certain
true. That
countries.
is true. But that again is, sir, APC, sir. Once the article is accepted, they
Yeah,
will give an
APC,
option,
yeah, of course.
concession. So there are, so the world, the United Nations has classified countries based on their economic level. Middle income countries, lower middle income countries. And all. So some countries have a bit of concession on the APC. Usually, I said it's between 2 to 3 lakhs for the APC. But then some countries, lower income countries, they may have like a 20% or 30%, even 50% concession. I have seen journals where they say 100% concession also. It's very rare, but it's there. It's there. So it depends on the publisher. But that's not the same as asking for money upfront, which is a scam. Yes.
Okay, so I had a question related to the rights, like the division of rights between the author and the
copyrights.
journal. Yeah, the copyrights.
Yeah.
So what's the division like? Because as you said, like most of the rights go towards the journal, right?
The publisher.
The publisher, sorry.
Yes.
So what would be the divide? Like, would we get majority or is it equal?
When you look at the division part, so like it's not a math where you can actually divide exactly the rights, but I would say the journal has more power, generally speaking.
Yes.
The reason is because if you want to publish in their journal and in that publication, you have to give up a lot of your rights.
Mhm.
One is that the final version of the article will remain with the publisher and the journal. And but then you also have certain rights. I said you can share the accepted version of the article after a year. You have you can use your final version of the article for teaching purposes in some journals. So every journal has a different copyrights policy. Now I can't generalize for all the journals or all the publishers. But then generally speaking, you are not allowed to share the final version anywhere, anytime, unless you pay for open access. But you can share the accepted version after a year, and you can use your final version for teaching purposes. For sometimes you can also quote that study in newspaper articles. And so there's a complete different field altogether. Those who study copyrights law will be more interested in this. But then by and large, I would say the journal or the publisher takes most of your rights, which
Yes,
is kind of a
because-
debate, which some people say is not fair. I guess so. So
And
but that is what it is.
Yeah, and because of the copyrights, like I am also like kind of researching about
Copyrights.
copyright laws
Okay, yeah. So that's
in the music field.
okay.
So I had to ask the question about what would be the divide in
Yeah. So journal gets the
journal-
most.
journalism.
Sadly, that's the reality. Not just the journal, the publisher. I should be specific. It's the publisher.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful lecture. I just wanted to ask that in specifically social science, usually we had to go with secondary data if the primary data is not available
Yes.
on a particular topic of our interest.
Yes.
So in that, when you talked about developing methodology, and if we are very naive to the research field, so how can we develop on the methodology part?
Yeah. See, there's a part of this lecture where I've probably something of this lecture that I probably missed about. It's the methodology part. See, you could be a great writer. Huh? You could be like Shakespeare. Who knows? Because when I started writing, I was a very good writer. My dad, by the way, he was a writer and an editor. Maybe because I'm here. Huh? I don't know. But he was a writer and an editor. And then when I started writing, I used to write a lot of short stories, poems. Okay, even when I was in school, I used to do that. I had a flair for writing. When I wrote a research proposal to my guide, my guide went through the research proposal and he said, "Beautiful writing, but methodology is all wrong." And this is not a novel. This is research. And he said, in research methodology, you should use simple terms. Don't complicate it. If you read my article, anyone, most probably, anyone who has a basic knowledge of statistics or basic, they can understand the purpose. Journals are looking for that. They are looking for people who don't use sophisticated language to confuse people. Now, some people use this strategy of confuse or convince. Don't do that. Use your language properly. Keep it simple, like how I'm keeping this simple. And then I write like I speak, literally. So there's not much difference, except I may be more grammatically correct when I'm writing, right? Because I check for all errors and all. But then what I'm trying to say is you need to get your methodology straight. There's no way around it. And for that, you need to pay close attention to your research methodology course. My guide, he taught me the methodology. My methodology is solid because he was a solid researcher. He taught me the basics from the scratch, right? Like how a father would teach a son. He was like a second dad to me. He's still alive. He's still around. Okay. So we publish together. We do research together. So I have a very good bond with my guide. Okay. So, and he was a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. So if you're lucky enough to get a guide like that, I was honestly very lucky. So lucky enough, and he taught me the methodology. So you need to go through your methodology. First, get your methodology straight. Otherwise, you'll get rejected. So get your methodology straight, then get your writing straight, and then you'll publish for sure.
Sir, second question is that when you talk about statistics and data analysis part,
Yeah.
so sometimes as students we are not very well versed with the techniques which are used for data analysis, and we have large set of data which has to be summarized
Yes.
because the figures can't be hanged in the paper, and
Yes, you
know.
can't. You can't.
So how we process that, because we have to use then AI or something.
No
like-
AI. Why do you want to use AI for data analysis? There are softwares for data analysis. My YouTube channel, if you click that, you will see it's a channel on data analysis. I teach SPSS and PSPP data analysis. I have like some 75,000 views. And I started this channel not to get fame or anything. I started because some of my students, master's level students, they came to me. I was a research in charge back then. They said, "Sir, can you teach that SPSS thing again?" I taught them once. After 5 or 6 days, "Sir, one more time." And I did it once. And then I said, the third time they came, I said, "Hey, hang on. I've done it 2 times. I can't keep doing it again and again. So I'm starting a YouTube channel. Here you go." So I started a YouTube channel and I started uploading my videos mainly for my students. And then now it's picked up. I'm getting views from different places. But the purpose of that is to learn data analysis. So you can learn data analysis. Please don't rely on AI. It makes a lot of mistakes. And last year we had some students who tried to use AI. The data analysis was so messed up. I mean, it was unrelated to what they were doing. And even they didn't know what the AI had done. It was a mess. Most AIs are black boxes. That means they don't reveal how they think. So there's still a lot of AI is very useful, but it's still got a long way to go for data analysis and all. Because you as the researcher has to decide which. So when you submit a data to an AI, it will do all the tests that it wants. It doesn't care what you want. You are the one with the research question. You are the researcher, not the AI. So you have to be in charge of it. It's just like even today, planes are being flown by pilots. Although they use computers to fly the planes, majority of the work is still done by the pilots. So the same way, you have to use softwares for data analysis, but you have to input the right variable and you have to learn data analysis. So find a good mentor who can teach you. If you have a guide who's good at data analysis, nothing like that, sit with them, learn it, or watch YouTube videos and learn. Sometimes self-learning is the best learning, right? So yeah, thank you. Okay, so thank you once again, and all the best with your research.
Thank you all for your wonderful and thoughtful questions, and a big thank you for the speaker for responding with such clarity and that. To conclude the session formally, I now invite our HOD, Dr. Arish, to share a kind few words.
It's working. You want me to use this? Okay. Yeah. So first of all, let me thank Gokul for accepting our invitation and coming and addressing all of you, because I felt that he's one of the main area where most of our faculty are actually, and also students, are facing problems in terms of publication in Scopus and Web Science journals. So I felt I should start with the humanities lecture first. Then first name which came to my mind is him, and immediately I contacted him with one message he accepted. So thank you very much, and yeah, thank you everyone for attending.
As we come to an end of this enriching session, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who made this event possible. A special thank you to our honorable guest speaker for sharing your expertise, to our HOD for our continued encouragement, and to all the organizers for your participation. Let this session be a starting point for a more focused and determined journey towards publishing high quality Scopus-Indexed papers. With that, I wish you all a continued success in your research journey. Thank you once again and have a great evening.